Hello everyone, Razorblade Mango here, and today I wanted to talk about something that I was inspired to kind of ruminate on after the miserable launch of Concord, and that is the concept of what it takes to be successful in the video game industry these days. Now, that is an enormous, multifaceted topic. However, I want to zero in on one piece of advice that I can give to anyone out there looking to make video games, or even, hell, I think even the big AAA publishers that spend millions of dollars on market research and surveys and all that could learn a thing or two about. And that is this concept of serving the unserved. What I mean by that is that I think it is imperative that if you're going to have a bigger than average chance of making a good, well-received, financially successful game, then I think it would serve you better to find a niche audience that is being neglected and make something really cool that speaks to them. So today I wanted to look at 3 games that I have picked out in particular that I feel like are case studies in appealing to a specific niche and riding that wave to success. The first game I want to start out with is Sea of Thieves, which is the live service game from Xbox and developed by Rare. This is a game that released quite a long time ago now in video game timeline standards, that didn't really do so hot in the beginning. I remember when I first played Sea of Thieves, and I just thought it sucked. I thought it was bare bones, boring, and was just so disappointing given its concept, because this is one of the most unique things that Sea of Thieves has going for it, is just the concept of what it is. It's a pirate game. And not only is it a pirate game, it's a cartoony, silly pirate adventure that you can play with your friends. And that is not something that has been made in a long time. I don't think, I probably not since Monkey Island have I seen a pirate-themed game be so cartoonish and goofy. And, credit to Rare, they buckled down, added a bunch of free content to the game, and, a number of years later, it is still, to this very day, a big success in the live service space. Not the biggest thing in the world, obviously. It's not up there with the likes of Fortnite or Genshin Impact or any of the sports games, but it found itself a really nice niche of players that were willing to stick with it, and because they served the unserved in the form of people looking for a cartoony multiplayer pirate adventure that they can have fun with their friends, it has gradually over time grown to be a much bigger thing than it was at launch. It has attracted a lot of players that probably weren't usually into this kind of thing, and very recently it launched on PS5, and it has gone on to sell an estimated over 1 million copies on just PlayStation alone. And the crazy thing about this game is that it is successful despite a game you charge money for upfront. This is a game that costs $40 to buy, and yet it is the rare paid multiplayer live service game that is still doing really well in a sea of games that, if you're not part of a big franchise like Call of Duty or the 2K sports games or MLB The Show, then a lot of them are free to play. Like I said, Fortnite, Apex Legends, Genshin Impact, tons of them. And despite all that, it is still successful. Why? This is something that I've thought about for a long time, and the thing that comes to mind is that it is still, even to this day, a unique game. There are no other cartoonish multiplayer pirate adventures out there. Even the most recent example of a pirate game coming out in Skull and Bones from Ubisoft, it bombed. Like it failed horribly. Sea of Thieves, I think, has basically just grabbed a corner of the market for itself and has clung on to it for a lot longer than I expected. And that's amazing. I think Sea of Thieves should serve as an example of people that want to get into the live service space as to what to do to be possibly more successful than the average live service. You need to find an audience that is willing to attach themselves to your weird niche concept. Look out there and see what is not being made. Don't look at things like hero shooters and Breath of the Wild clones and gacha games. Like, no, just go out there and go do something weird and different. For the second game, I wanted to pivot away from live services and talk about a recent single player game that has enjoyed success, and that would be Team Asobi's Astrobot. Oh, just thinking about Astrobot already just makes me smile. While Astrobot is a AAA game from PlayStation, I still think it exemplifies the concept of finding and speaking to a niche audience that is being neglected. Because while there are a lot of 3D platformers out there, there are not that many that have this level of polish and graphical fidelity and variety to them like Astrobot does. Beyond Nintendo's garden, there really aren't that many big AAA 3D platformers out there. A lot of them feel very budget, they come across as janky, and while some of them are good, a lot of them are nowhere near as good as Nintendo's offerings or Astrobot, or hell, some of the old Crash and Spyro games from back in the day. And speaking of that, even though Activision is now under Xbox, there's a gap in the market because Activision is not doing dick with Crash and Spyro right now. So there is room for a AAA 3D platformer. To their credit, PlayStation and Team Asobi saw an opportunity and they took it. And they have been enjoying success ever since it came out. All they had to do was find a market, people, children, young adults that love big 3D platformers that maybe don't have a Switch or aren't into Nintendo's games or want something beyond Mario or Yoshi or Kirby and want something new. Here you go, Astrobot. And it's a game that evokes the spirit of Nintendo's sense of play. It's fun. It has a lot of variety to it. It looks fucking gorgeous. And lo and behold, it's successful. It is a game that served the unserved, and it's reaping the rewards because of it. And the final game that I want to talk about, and I'm going to pivot back to live services because this is an upcoming game. So while I can't speak to the quality of the game that I'm going to talk about, I do find it a very interesting example of finding a niche and appealing to them. And that would be the upcoming gacha game, Infinity Nikki, which is a game that it's not for me. Like, I'm not going to beat around the bush. Infinity Nikki is not a game for me at all. I don't play games to dress up in cosplay outfits and take pictures and run around with cute little critters while like flowers come out of like it's it's not for me at all. But Infinity Nikki has already garnered an audience that is very curious as to what this game is going to be like. If you go and look at the trailers from the last State of Play back in May, that game is the #1 most viewed trailer out of everything, above Astrobot, above Monster Hunter Wilds. Infinity Nikki is the big thing from that, at almost 3 million views on PlayStation's YouTube channel right now. And I was fascinated by this, so I did some research into it and discovered that Nikki is this series from China that has mainly only been available there, but it's just very, unknown in America, and it's really only available on just certain Chinese servers and stuff like that. And lo and behold, it's the 5th game in the series, and it's the first one that is this big open world thing. And because it is a game that focuses a lot, at least in the trailer, on dressing up and posing for pictures and doing basic platforming, it has found its niche, and it's not even out yet. And from what I understand, it's already garnering a pretty captive audience with the amount of pre-registrations that it has for both its beta and the game. I am very curious to see how Infinity Nikki turns out. Again, it's not my thing at all, but it definitely has my attention much more than most gacha games do. And again, it comes from looking at something that people want. There is a market out there for people, especially I would assume young girls, female teenagers that want to play a mobile or PC or PS5 gacha game that lets you dress up the character and sing songs and take pictures with poses, and that's a thing that a lot of people want, apparently. And I have to give them credit, is that they're apparently more on the ball. They have their finger on the pulse a lot better than some other video games do, and this is yet another example of they found their people and they're appealing to them, and I assume they're gonna reap the rewards big time when this thing comes out, unless it's a massive disaster. And again, like I said in the beginning, I can't speak to the quality of Infinity Nikki, but as far as being a big example of the concept of serving the unserved, I think it already is a success as far as appeal and marketing. I think it's already done really well for itself, and it's not even out yet. Those are the 3 games I wanted to talk about just to exemplify the concept of serving the unserved. And again, I have to repeat, this concept is not the be-all end-all of what makes a game successful. That question, what makes a game successful, is very complex and very layered, and sometimes it just requires really good timing and really good luck. And a lot of games have failed because it failed to check off one or the other, and some games have greatly succeeded because they were just the right game at the right time that appealed to the right audience. And I think Sea of Thieves and Astrobot exemplify the latter really well. Right game, right time, and for the right people. Infinity Nikki looks on track to be another success for the Chinese game industry because, again, they're looking at a market that's very niche and saying, hey, let's make a game for them. And it will more than likely be a big success because of it. That's all I wanted to talk about today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all later. Goodbye.